On to our first speaker of the day, Sandeep Joshi. He is the author of the Sustainable Agile Manifesto. He is also an accomplished executive, transformation leader, and entrepreneur with a successful track record of leading enterprise transformations across industries globally. Welcome, Sandeep. Over to you.
Thank you, Brittany. And I would like to start my session with saying thank you to everybody who is here. And really, really great to have you all here. And thank you for all the speakers who are making this conference a success, as well as all the attendees who are participating. So if one thing you want to remember from this conference is this thank you that I want to start this with. So thank you very much for everything that you do for the community. So I just wanted to share the context and background around how did this journey of Sustainable Agile Manifesto started. And then, throughout the context of, since this was released on 11th April last year, many people have asked me this question, why we are bringing sustainability and agility together. So I just wanted to put some context behind my thinking, and also basically share around what questions I was trying to solve, or what are the things which was puzzling me and still puzzling me even though after I created the manifesto, and what those questions I was trying to answer. So being into leadership roles in various organizations and leading global teams, one of the things that I noticed that all the businesses, there was an unending race to do more, which I call it capitalism, or the side effects of capitalism, right? So don't get me wrong, but capitalism is one of the best thing that has ever happened to the mankind. But at the same time, the side effects of it is now kind of showing in our generation. And the race to do more is not ending. There is always this race to being the number one, being the best, being leading, being launching the products as the number one company, and so on. And there is nothing wrong in it. I mean, I fully support being competitive, staying on top of your game, but at what cost? We need to balance that. Then the second thing that I have been involved in around is the transformation. So not just the agile transformation per se, but also my previous background into business transformations. And the transformation problem is not solved yet by the industry. If we see, we all know, and we come from the background of transformation. Most of us are where 85% of the transformations fail. So what we are looking at is from last 2 decades, since the origin of the Agile Manifesto, we have kind of seen how the industrial nexus have grown into what we call as uh, the fragile community, which is what we are seeing more and more, as well as the problems of transformations are not going away. We are not seeing the kind of results that we hope to see. And then when I looked at at a little deeper level, then I was looking at, okay, so how do we basically make it more sustainable, and how, and am I the first one to look at it? And then I looked at and then saw, okay, the sustainability as a topic has been in practice since Johnson and Johnson CEO talked about sustainability in a conference back in 1970. And he kind of taken the world by surprise that they wanted to go on the sustainability route. And then that's where it intrigued me, and then I started my research on sustainability. So that I'll share more about what I actually did research on and what did I find. But that was one of the questions that I was trying to answer. And then the fourth one, which is much bigger than the work and the life, what is that we are leaving behind for our next generations? What are that our next generation will inherit? Which becomes a little philosophical, but I think as humans, we are being given intelligence to make use of it, to not just look for now, but also look for making this world a better place for everybody who comes here. So those were the four questions which I started on, and that's where I started thinking, they are not unrelated topics. At the end of the day, if you are looking at agility, nimbleness, faster response times, we also need to look at the balancing aspect of which is the sustainability. So how did the overall journey started in the timeline? So just at a very high level, I started my research on sustainability, various business models, and then went deep into frameworks. Also talked to the framework authors and the creators around what their thought process was when they have created something like Save for Less or Nexus, Disciplined Agile. So I had the privilege to kind of get in touch with them, understand their philosophy behind that. So that happened for around 6 to 7 years, around until 2017. And then in 2017, I was focused more on the future of work, how the future of work will be shaped, how we will be looking at things that we are currently living and breathing, the concept of globalization, the distributed working model, how it will change. And then that was one of the topic that I was writing a lot on, and also discussing with my colleagues, my friends, as well as in my overall research that I was doing. And then at the towards the start of 2020, COVID happened, and that's where the first thing that I published was something about super distributed teams, that how this notion of working remotely changes everything for everybody. And that was my first attempt to create something tangible, combining these two things together. And then a lot many people from community jumped into it. And then what we gave and collectively the name for that whole concept of how we can look at the super distributed teams, the super distributed outcomes, and then combining together the agility and sustainability. So we started calling it the Sustainable Agile Manifesto, and that's how this term was born. Now, when I was looking at it, we had four values, and those values has been rephrased at least few times in the first quarter of 2020, since we were trying to publish it. I was trying to publish it in January, and then we used to have continuous to and fro. And some of the people who have helped me through the journey, I will be taking their names in the following slides. But this is the final outcome which we published on 11th April. And those values, if you look at it from not just from a value perspective, but also from how do you actually apply those in your practical life, then you will understand why these are being called upon like this. So the first one is co-located minds over co-located people. And this is not just about working remotely, but even when you are physically co-located, and if your minds are not in the same place, if you're not thinking and not having a shared understanding, you will not achieve the right outcomes. So that's what was the purpose behind it, looking at both physical as well as the emotional and the mental space, and what we call as the mental models, like co-located minds over co-located people. So really taking this concept to the next level, right? Rather than physically present, making sure you're really present. Then the second one is around collective outcomes over individual outputs. So rather than looking at just the individual kind of outcomes for people, looking at a team-based outcome system, the team-based approach, not just for performance, but also for the work, but also for the overall society. How can we create a team which goes beyond your work, which goes beyond your family, and how can we address this concept of collective outcomes as a society? That was the thinking behind it. Then speed to value or speed to market. So this is about putting purpose in everything you do at the center of it, right? And I call it be at the center of the value. So when you are looking at be at the center of value, we are not asking about maximizing. We are not asking about racing towards it. What we are asking about it, make sure that your speed is towards the value, and you are at the center of the value when you are doing it. And then last one is about people. How can we make psychological safety omnipresent? How can we build an environment of empathy and trust, which is very much important, not just now, but also in future. Without empathy and trust, not just this generation, but also the future generation will not be able to grow and sustain in the world that we are seeing now after post-COVID and the respective effects of it. So that's a very, very brief summary of this. And then most of our speakers will be talking about some real life examples of these values. So just few snapshots and some few call outs of the people who have basically, helped me through this journey. So Prasanna Shankaran, he is my colleague. He helped me rephrase multiple times the values. Adrian Claxton and Christine Johnson, they both have reviewed this multiple times with me. Raj Kannan, who is also part of core team, he has helped tremendously on, helping me throughout the process of, making this published. So thank you to all those members, and then the community also jumped in. So I have few snapshots of how the process has overall evolved over the last year. But one thing I wanted to also talk about the overall manifesto is it's not just about, so in comparison, because people start comparing this to Agile Manifesto, and I always tell them this is not just an extension, but this is taking it to another level. And when I say it is in another level, I'm talking about an universal applicability of the manifesto. You can pick these values and you can apply in any industry, any domain, any kind of team composition. You can also apply it to your individual personal life. You can apply it to any type of business model and business functions. It is not really restricted to just software or just a particular business function. It is for, you can apply it at the government level, at a society level, for any type of problems. And that was our thinking, and that is what it makes it much more powerful and much more applicable to all sorts of situations and all sorts of problems that we are trying to handle as a society, as a human race altogether. Going to the next one, this is our first snapshots from our first community meeting, which happened in July 2020. You can see some familiar faces there. So I was talking about some of the names that I have took. So Christine is here, Raj is here, my friend Rafa, who has also been an instrumental, he played a instrumental role in the manifesto. Gretel, who just joined us, she has been supportive since day one, since this came to life. So thank you very much to all the members who have been supporting the community, and we wish your support continues and then this community grows forward. And then my first talk happened on this manifesto, and all thanks to Steve, who is also joined us today, where we discussed about how the overall manifesto can inspire the various problems that we are facing as a society, and how it basically is a framework neutral or framework agnostic approach that you can apply anywhere, wherever you feel that those values can be adopted. So thank you, Steve, for giving the opportunity and being part of the community and an active member. So thank you very much for that. All right. So some of the emails I've been getting since last few months is, okay, Sandeep, you have created a manifesto. Now what? There are so many manifestos out there. There is Agile Manifesto, Modern Agile Manifesto, and then there are many of those are unpublished, which people keep on posting here and there. So what do you want to achieve with this? And I was giving it a thought, and then when I looked at, let's make it data driven. And when I looked at, okay, so now how do I make it from a nice to have to a must have, from both for sustainability as well as agility? So when I looked at the gap in terms of knowing versus doing, so sustainability is also in the same boat, like what we did to Agile in last 2 decades. A lot of companies doing that to sustainability as part of the ESG metrics, and how they report and how they kind of do what we used to call it lipstick Agile. Now we are seeing lipstick sustainability. So knowing and doing gap is huge at this point in time. So 25% of the sustainability in corporations have put sustainability in their business models. That means 75% businesses have no idea what it is, or even if they have an idea, they don't feel that it is important to put it there. And only 24% of the companies feel that it is really important to put it. So it's a very big number. So even after seeing the kind of damage that we have on climate, or on the water crisis, or the overall world population, how things are changing, our organizations who must play a big role, they are still not really willing to go forward and then help with it. And then the last but not the least is the 85% transformation fails. There is a Forbes article on this, and then there is some data to back this up. So, and I'm pretty sure this group of people, you as a practitioners and as transformation experts, some of us might correlate this number and might have a view on this. So all in all, when we are trying to combine these two, it's very easy to talk. It's very hard to do, and it's very harder to sustain. So companies who have started, a lot of companies have started talking about both sustainability as well as agility, but it's very, very hard to do. And one of the challenges that companies are facing is how do you make it real? How do you make it your day to day? So when I talk about agility, I always talk about time to market. I always talk about releasing faster. How do I make it sustainable? What do you mean? And then those kind of questions actually, give birth to what I call as the, if at all you need to race, you race towards sustainability. And these are the 4 steps that I have put together. So the number one is, as a company, as an organization, or as a team, you can start at any level. The first thing is to reimagine a better way of life. So I want to focus your attention towards these words. I'm not talking about better ways of working, because as a team, if you really want to believe and build high performance, you need to look beyond and understand each other beyond work. And that's why the call out for a better way of life through open minds and growth experiments. Number 2 is around expanding the vision. And when we talk about I versus we still are talking about in the context of either a team or organization. But my suggestion is to extend this beyond I versus we to include the us part as the society into it. So think about what we are going to deliver. How does it impact us? How does it impact my business? And how does it impact the society? That's when you bring the power together, all together. The third one is this shift profit driven to purpose driven. And we are not saying that you should not look out for profit. So a lot of startup founders where I presented this, they have challenged this thought process. So hey, as a startup, my first thing is to get a break even point, and all you are giving me is all this philosophical talk about purpose driven. What are you talking about? And then basically my suggestion to them is look at sustainability as your business advantage, not as something that you top up or as you put as an add-on what you do. It's not an add-on. It's an underlying fundamental thing that you do as part of your business. And then the last one is about transformations in business growth through instilling a new value system. And that value system is something that you need to derive based on what your true values are, how these values you can embed into the overall culture. And it will be a slow process, like what I was talking. So sustain is the really hardest piece, and that's why this effort that we are doing as community to bring this concept to life. So with that, I would really again go back to the manifesto and leave it with you, the thoughts around these 4 values. And then during this conference and after the conference, I look forward to hear from you, both good and not so good. If you have any feedback, if you have any things that you think can make this better, can help us make this combination of sustainability and agility a viable combination, and something that can help us uncover the better ways, I think that's what my request to each one of you is. So keep sharing, keep learning, and keep going. And that's all I have for this session to talk. I hope it gives you a bit of more background about what the manifesto is and how it came to life. So I'll pause it here, and if there is any questions, any comments, please feel free to ask now.